The Auburn Tigers were incredible Saturday night.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. It's the morning after. Darrell, Dapperich, Montgomery radio legend, hanging out with us. Darrell, the Tigers win 73-3. It sounds ridiculous to say it out loud, but 73 points in the season opener for Auburn. Your biggest takeaway was what?
Well, in a game like this, Zach, I try to keep perspective and not get too high or not get too low. I mean, I know that we need to pump the brakes, but this is such a great, I guess, offensive performance, historic offensive performance.
Right.
I don't want to lose sight that it's not about who the opponent is, but what Auburn did. Auburn in games like this, Zach, has to worry about execution, penalties, turnover. How do they play? How do they look? What do they do from an execution standpoint? And I don't care who the opponent is. It looked different. And I'm trying not to overboog and overreact to this, but they looked different. There were so many aspects of that football game tonight, especially from an offensive standpoint, that did look like there were major improvements and did look like something that we haven't seen as Auburn fans for a very long time.
Yeah, everything felt different on the offensive side of the ball. Quarterback play, receivers, when they didn't have the ball in their hands as far as creating separation, when they did get the ball in their hands, just the burst and acceleration that they had, the scheme, which obviously helped with getting guys open, as well as just situational awareness. KLS's second touchdown pass really stands out to me, or touchdown reception really stands out to me as kind of an example of the scheme. It all just felt different. Yes, Alabama A&M stinks. Who cares? Like, if you want to be upset or not like excited about a historic performance for your favorite team, like that's on you, whatever. But like, to me, Darrell, this was all about Payton Thorne, because he's been, I mean, anybody who's been able to say something negative publicly about a quarterback, they've done it towards Payton Thorne. And to me, he's got to feel somewhat vindicated, because what he's done so far in just one half of football, 322 yards on the ground, 40-something rushing, 5 total touchdowns. Hats off to you, Payton.
Great point that you make about how people will look at the opponent. But I'm going to say this. Auburn has played historically bad football teams before in the last 4 or 5 years. It didn't look like that. So there is some perspective and some sample sizes on this, is that even against teams that were really overmatched, Auburn didn't execute offensively, especially from the passing game. Here's the key. You and I talked about what Auburn did against Alabama A&M in years previously, how run heavy they were.
Yeah.
They came out and threw it all over the yard. 5 wides, threw it for 300 and something yards. Well, Payton Thorne did. Obviously, there was over 400 yards passing. His passer rating was like 254. It's just absurd. So I get that there's an opponent factor of this, but I don't care. In years past, there's been really overmatched opponents, and Auburn hasn't done. We wanted to see an efficient passing game. We wanted to see what the receivers did as far as making a difference. And we saw that tonight.
Yeah, and the way Payton and Hank, I guess Holden, like the way they threw the ball and where they put it in the air, they just put it in a spot where the receivers could go and get it and give them a chance. I don't know if we've really felt that or seen that before. And some of that may have been the catch radius of Auburn's previous receivers aren't as noticeable as what they have this year, obviously. But it was just opportunity after opportunity of just the quarterback putting the ball in a spot where the receiver could go get it. And some of the times it worked out. And some of the times it's like, that was close. Like the Robert Lewis target in the end zone, like that was close. Like if that happens 5 times, like I do think he catches it 2 of the 5 times, which is a better, that's a better ratio than what we've seen in the past. And then also like Rivaldo Fairweather not capitalizing, like he probably should have caught that for a touchdown. I'm sure he would have said the same thing. And so to me, it was about Payton giving his guys an opportunity. And for the most part, I think they lived up to it.
Well, two things look different in the passing game to me from a receiving standpoint. The play calling to provide separation, they got guys open with scheme and play calling. That was different. And then the route trees, man, they just looked a lot more complex. 3 guys running different routes that there were a couple times that Payton Thorne could have checked down once, twice, 3 times, and all 3 options were open. Again, difficult to do against air. And I've seen Auburn play lesser opponents before where there wasn't separation and there was a lot of 50-50 balls. There was separation. The play that Malcolm Simmons caught on the crossing route where he planted his foot, stopped, and changed direction, that was the middle of the field, a deep slant. Auburn usually doesn't run those routes. So I get it. Those are the things you look for in a game like this. What are you doing differently than years past? And that stood out to me. And I don't care. You just can see a difference with how these receivers catch the ball, run after the catch. It's pretty exciting, with how the whole receiving corps had all this pressure and all this hype.
Yeah.
And for the most part, in an opener, first time playing in front of 89,000 fans, they lived up to it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to look at the 73 points. You don't have to look at the 450 passing yards as a team. You just watch the game and you look at those guys. And it's like, this is different. Like we haven't seen this in a hot minute. And obviously, when you compare it to a year ago, yes, the offense is better. Don't look at Alabama A&M. If you're one of those people that just don't want to be excited about anything, like don't look at Alabama A&M. Just look at your team that you supposedly cheer for, and like clearly they're way better off now than they were a year ago. When we're talking about the offense, there were 2, I guess, personnel decisions that were made very clear of like what the pecking order is at that spot. Let's jump into that, Darrell, as well as some of the things that Hugh Freeze said in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. You can go to 5hourenergy.com. That's number 5, hourenergy.com. 0 sugar, but boy, just a blast of energy. In honor of Charlie 5 and his favorite flavor, about an hour before kickoff, I took the grape flavor. I felt good. I mean, that was like, I think it was more than 5 hours ago as we record this at midnight. I still feel great, Darrell Dapperich.
Yes. Well, it seems like the whole team took a little bit of 5 Hour Energy before kickoff, right? And I'm recording this now at a tailgate, and so I'm jacked, and so it looks like I've taken some 5 Hour. Perfect opportunity for something like this when you're getting ready to go to a game and you're rocking in the stadium. So yes, 5 Hour Energy. It looked like the whole team had it tonight.
Yeah, go to 5hourenergy.com. Once again, that's the number 5hourenergy.com. Hey, use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. You'll get 20% off your order. So head over to 5hourenergy.com today. Use promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all one word. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. A little morning after the first of the year, Darrell. Starting off your Sunday.
I love it.
Strong. I'm there with you, dude. I love it.
You used to get the morning paper, and now what do? You reach for your podcast or your YouTube, and this is what you do instead.
That's right.
This is this version of the Sunday morning paper.
Yeah, we've done this for a few years, and we maybe could add like 10 games together and not hit 73 total points scored. I mean, this is, I'm sure if we pick the worst 10, that could happen. So to me, there were 2 personnel situations that one was surprising. One I think was telling. And I want your thoughts more so on the second one. But the first one is it seems like Malcolm Simmons is ahead of Robert Lewis on the depth chart at slot receiver.
That shocked me.
I didn't see that coming, but they made that very clear. They drew up the first play to him. They got him involved, and like Robert Lewis, according to
1 catch, 8 yards. But I have a scoop on that. I have a scoop on that.
Okay.
So when the press conference was over, I got a chance to ask a question, but I didn't ask that question. When the press conference was over, I literally walked up to the table where Hugh Freeze was sitting, and we just started chatting. So cool how accessible he is. I said, Coach, is everything okay with Robert Lewis? 1 catch, 8 yards, didn't start. He said he's battling a hamstring injury.
Interesting.
And he said there was no point to run him out there more than we did, especially wanting to give Malcolm some reps. But he's key for us. He's a leader, and he'll play more, but we did feel like we needed to push it tonight.
Okay, so maybe we don't know that then. But you got to think they feel good about the reps they gave Malcolm. Like that, like as far as market share goes, I've said Robert Lewis, he was I predicted him to lead the team in receiving yards. I don't think that's going to be correct based off of what we saw tonight, but we'll see. Like you said, the hamstring thing is interesting for sure. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing, like Damari Austin appears to be the clear RB2, and Jeremiah Cobb appears to be the clear RB3 because all of his reps, to my knowledge, came when he was standing next to Hank with the second team.
Yeah, on an otherwise eventful, wonderful, enthusiastic evening, that was my only bummer. No, I'm just teasing. I don't care how it gets done. You put 73 on the board. I don't care who's running the football. But right. I was shocked that he didn't get more carries with Payton Thorne being the quarterback in the first half. Now, remember what the run-pass ratio was in the first half and how lopsided it was. Mm-hmm. And Hugh Freeze made a point to say, yeah, I wanted to throw it a lot more. I wanted to show people. And he said, I really don't care about how many yards we rush for. He said, I look for yards per carry.
Yeah.
And he said, we ran it for almost 10 yards per carry. And so he said, but I definitely wanted to put the emphasis more on throwing. And that was obvious, Zach, as soon as, they came out, like I said before. When's the last time we saw 5 wides? I can't recall. I just maybe but it's been a long time.
We saw it under Stidham, like when Stidham was the quarterback.
So here's the thing. We talked about the kind of point performance that Auburn had in the first half, how many yards they threw for, and when the last time they had 5 wides, and it was all in the same sticking game in that bowl game. So maybe there's a correlation between those 3 things, right? But I think they ran the ball effectively. I think that you think about this. If this passing game evolves even against SEC opponents to be effective and to be a weapon, how much better is Auburn going to run the football with having that in its repertoire?
That's my thing. And I talked about that when I went live after the game. It's like Auburn did all of this without using the run to set it up.
Yeah.
How encouraging is that? And I guess there were questions about the O-line, and I don't know if last night answered any questions about the O-line. That's going to be something that they're going to have to go and watch tape on. I don't think we're going to learn much until next weekend against Cal. We'll see. Obviously the coaching staff is going to be able to break this stuff down better than we are. But to me, I think that's encouraging that they didn't need like play action to set some stuff up. They did do some play action, or it's going to be charted as play action, but some of it looked more RPO than play really action. Was. But to me, that's the underlying like great thing in all of this is Auburn scored 73 points when they only ran it 18 times. It's insane.
And again, look at that yards per carry. They had an effective rushing night, almost 170 yards.
9.8 yards per carry across the team.
And he said they were running into some boxes too. And so Alabama A&M played them a little bit differently than Hugh Freeze thought. They really felt like they were going to sell out for the run, and they didn't. But look, the crossing routes, the slants, the deep balls, it was all there. And that's what's great is that there was a nice variety, like I mentioned with the route tree and I didn't see a screen pass. I didn't see a dump. I didn't see the nickel and dime dinky dunk stuff. They took shots downfield.
They pushed it. Yeah.
And there was a throw, I think the second touchdown that Thorne threw to KLS, where the pocket started to collapse around him, and he stepped up in the pocket and let it fly.
KLS was almost running like a wheel type thing.
And I don't care that the throw was perfect and KLS got separation. What I look for in something like that is, what did he do when the pocket started to collapse? And he read that and stepped up. And remember, any run that he had tonight, Zach, seemed to be a pre-planned where he pulled it. He didn't run out of necessity, like the play breaking down and just
it looked like a read option. It could have been a design keeper. That's just stuff we don't know. But juke the cameraman out. So there's one to Jarquez that was really in like the line went with Jarquez, so it kind of looked like I mean, I assume that one was a read, but still, all in all, yeah, you're right. All four of them, I believe, were design, which I don't love. They ran him 4 times. I don't love that in that situation, but they ran the offense. When Payton was in, they ran the offense, and it's hard to knock that.
It's a threat that defensive coordinators have to prepare for when you do it and put it on tape. That's why I like it. It's something they have to look at.
Yeah. All right. So you just got done as we record this. Like you just got done with the presser with Freeze.
Yes.
Other than the Robert Lewis hammy nugget, which I thought was great. What else stood out to you with what Freeze said?
Well, he was, a little bit disappointed with some of the decisions that Payton Thorne made. He's pointed out 2 or 3 particular on a spot route where he felt like the guy was wide open and he didn't read it right, threw it behind him. But more than anything else, something he said that was very interesting to me is he said he's not protecting himself on RPOs, and it could come back to hurt. He said he threw a touch. There was a play where Payton Thorne made a beautiful throw for a touchdown, and I watched Hugh Freeze on the sidelines chew his tail out. And I'm like,
they zoomed in on that on the TV broadcast too.
And I'm like, why? Well, it's because he got hit. And he said he knows what to do and how to protect himself better on RPO throws, and he's not doing it. And he says he's going to get hit, and it's going to cost us him in a game if he doesn't clean that up and learn how to protect himself. Very interesting. A nugget I've never heard. Yeah, he didn't like the misalignment penalties. Durkin and him were very disappointed with some of the misalignment penalties from a defensive standpoint. And here's something, Zach, that's really cool. I didn't even know this rule. Auburn keeps picking the quarterback up after a sack. If you do that, it's a roughing the passing penalty. You can't touch the quarterback and pick him up off the ground. They throw the flag. Auburn got 2 of those. And he said, that's just not being smart, and you got to clean that up because it's going to hurt you in a closer game.
Okay. So it's almost encouraging, don't show good sportsmanship.
Try to be nice, right?
Yeah,
I don't know why. By the way, can I go on the record to say that's the dumbest, stupidest penalty I've ever heard in the history of penalties? You're trying to show sportsmanship and pick up a quarterback and they throw the flag. He also didn't
That's such an easy coachable thing, though, where it's like, just don't touch the quarterback.
Just don't touch him.
That's such an easy thing to fix.
Walk away.
Yeah, right. I'm there. Yeah.
That's fine. He also didn't like the way the corners and in the secondary played the ball a little bit. He didn't feel like that they played the ball effectively. They took too many grabby, handsy penalties.
The younger guys were certainly like that.
Yeah, J.C. Hart, the ball that went through his hands, that he had an interception. It was a big play.
Can't bat it up if you're going to do that.
But I'm going to tell you something. Go back and look at the stats and how J.C. Hart tackled from the corner position and came up and run support, and he played really, really well. So did the linebackers.
Tied for second on the team with 4 total tackles, for what that's worth.
Played well. But, yeah, he was overly excited, though, for the wide receivers. He said if he could not have drawn it up any better.
Good enough.
With the premiere and the debut that they had.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if Bryce Kane didn't fumble and he was able to get that last touchdown to get to 80 and all the Freeze 4 scored, maybe that could have been better. But yeah, it's a pretty incredible night. So I want to pose a question to you.
Okay.
As we spend just a few minutes looking ahead. I ask that in just a moment. Right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our favorite mobile app, Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Tonight kind of felt like playing a video game.
That's what I was going to say. I felt like it was an AI performance from a coaching standpoint. The way it was executed. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the copy says in this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into a head coach and call the shots. It feels like you put it on easy mode and you just, you run the score up. It's kind of what it felt like. So, if you want to experience tonight every night, you can download Ultimate College Football Head Coach. It's a free mobile app on your phone. No ads. It's 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we've got a special offer. Locked On Auburn listeners, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all one word, LOCKEDONCFB, all caps. Inside the game store, you get a free boost to your program. So make sure to take advantage of that. You can download it by going to ultimate-cfb.com, or you can just search Ultimate College Football Head Coach in your phone's app store and see it there. So be sure to go and check that out. Darrell, as we've got a few minutes left here, my question to you is now we look ahead. If you're Cal and this is your game tape and you're the defensive coordinator, like, all right, we got a team that just scored 70 plus and they didn't really do anything. They really didn't run that many plays. And they didn't really show us anything that sophisticated. We talked about how Jarquez Hunter and Damari and Jeremiah Cobb weren't that involved. If you're a defensive coordinator, what are you focusing on stopping if you're defending Auburn next week?
Wow, that's a great question. I think, and this is where it's going to benefit Auburn. I think Cal looks at this and says, we have to take the passing game away from Auburn right now.
That's what we've dreamt about.
I mean, you have to, because stats don't lie, and I get that they probably understand who the opponent is, but they're going to look at the stats. They're going to look at the passer rating. They're going to look at total yards through the air and what the receivers did, and they're going to say, okay, we have to devise a game plan to take that away. And if they do that, Auburn will eat on the ground like nobody's business, and that's okay. But I still feel like Auburn is going to throw the ball effectively against Cal next week. I still think they're going to get chunk plays, big yards. Look, Cal had to pull away late against UC Davis. It was a 14-13 game. I'm up there in the press box. I'm looking at the stats, and UC Davis was dominating.
Mm-hmm.
You better figure it out if you're Cal on what you're going to decide to stop. And if you decide to try to sell out to stop Auburn's receivers and throwing it all over the yard, Auburn may go for 250 on the ground.
I mean, that's like the ideal situation. Yeah, UC Davis, they had 221 yards of offense through the air.
I'm telling you right now, I mean, I'm not trying to – I got to try to temper my expectations.
I mean, it really feels like we're going to wreck them.
But if UC Davis throws for 221 against Cal, there is no reason why Auburn can't go for 3 bills. And if Auburn throws for 300 and rushes for 150 or 200, it's going to be a long day for the Golden Bears, yes. Because, look, this is interesting too. I get it with the defense and the resting and all that. Do you realize the first 3 Auburn possessions on offense, they averaged 22 seconds time of possession?
It was like 5 plays, wasn't it?
Yeah, first 3 possessions for Auburn that all resulted in touchdowns. The average time of possession was 22 seconds. I can't get a drink of Dasani water in 22 seconds. I looked down, typed something, touchdown. I mean, it was just unbelievable. You know, I get that. That's a potentially fatiguing thing for the defense. But you take that all day long.
Yeah.
Cal's going to have a hard time, I feel like, stopping Auburn's offense because I think Auburn will throw it 221 yards with UC Davis. Auburn can throw for 300 yards, and then the rushing game will be there. And I wish Auburn would have got more sacks. I'll be honest with you. And even Hugh Freeze said that in the presser. He felt like they should have collapsed the pocket more. It seemed like the pressure was there. I just don't think.
I don't. Sacks. Yeah. I mean, how many sacks do they have?
When I looked last time, it was 3. Yeah,
3 for a loss of 19 yards.
I think they should have had 4 or 5. I mean, but again, Cal's going to be run heavy. They're going to go at it with Ott. They're going to try to run the ball, and I really like the way Auburn stopped the run. By the way, Isaiah Rakes didn't play. He was resting an injury. They held him out for precaution reasons. Mm-hmm. He should be ready to go full force against Cal.
Yeah. I talked about this in my live reaction, but the only interior defensive lineman I really noticed was Malik Blockton. Did anybody else up front stand out to you outside of KeAndre and obviously McLeod was exceptional, but
the linebackers in the secondary were so active in tackling and going sideline to sideline in space that I didn't notice interior linemen at all. Crawford had a really good game. McLeod had a really good game. Falk had a good game, and the linebackers did. But the interior linemen looked a little bit invisible to me. I don't know. Maybe that's – and maybe with Rakes playing next week, that changes. and blocked and looked good. I was surprised that Quantrell Jameson started the game.
Yeah, Travis. Yeah, right.
Yeah, he started the game. But at the end of the day, I did see Bleedy start. I saw some defensive line depth, but they didn't stand out for me as far as pushing the pocket. They stopped the run okay.
And I kept waiting for that moment from Philip Bleedy too, and it just never really happened. Doesn't mean anything negative. I'm not going to overreact to it, but I did think that was interesting that like Malik Blockton was the only guy that we kept noticing on the defensive front over and over and over again. So that's exciting. Darrell, I'm looking at the box score for Cal UC Davis. Jay Knott, who, I mean, he's their star, had 14 carries. His longest run was for 7 yards.
Wow, that's concerning if you're Cal. That really is. I mean, because he is your bell cow. He's your guy that you feel like has to go off and have a career performance, in my opinion, for you to have a chance to beat Auburn at Jordan-Hare next week.
So it took everything for them to pull away from UC Davis, and UC Davis's quarterback had 3 picks.
Yeah,
doesn't look good.
I'm
try not to get overconfident.
I'm really excited. Let's just put it that way. The only thing and again, we talk about this. I was talking with people up this in the press box. They're like, look, if we need to worry about the weather to beat Cal, then we're not where we need to be. But I was so excited to watch them come in at 94-degree weather with 60% humidity, and that ain't going to be a way. It's going to be cool next Saturday. 80 degrees at kickoff.
Yeah, no kidding.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
80 degrees in Berkeley is like a tropical heat wave.
Right. Any final thoughts from the incredible evening? Something that we didn't get to that you wanted to touch on?
Auburn's been playing football for a long, long time. Got their 800th win tonight, which was pretty special.
Pretty cool.
I don't care who the opponent is. They have been playing football for a very, very long time and was a touchdown away from scoring the most points they've ever done in the history of the program.
Yep.
So, they've played a lot of teams, the caliber of Alabama A&M, and did not score at this potential. That's something that I feel like you hang your hat on. You clean up some things with misalignments defensively, and then you move forward. What's that old adage, Zach, that most teams improve the most between game 1 and game 2? Very, very difficult to improve on this one from an offensive standpoint, but look for more Hunter next week, maybe more Alston, and still I think a really good offensive performance next week, and Auburn should take care of business at home.
Yep. I 100% agree. Darrell, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Well, you can follow me on X, Dap6410, Instagram, Darrell Dap. Dropped an article on the Barn just a little while ago with a little takeaways, a little Dap recap action. And then with you, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sunday mornings. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. And hey, please like the video. Please subscribe. If you want more reaction from this game, you just can't get enough of it. Like Auburn couldn't get enough of the scoring Saturday night. I posted a live reaction show that went up immediately after. Be sure to check that out, whether it's on audio or on YouTube. It's there too. Like the video, please subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.